Welcome into the stream, ladies and gentlemen. I believe I might be sounding a little too loud right now. Let's go ahead and crank the volume down. Welcome into the stream, everybody. We're going to get started in just a second. We're running a little late here with what's going on. We ran into a couple technical difficulties this morning, but let's plug this stream real quick. Do. Boom. All right. Let's hop into it, guys. Week 10 of college football is here. This is not the greatest week in terms of like marquee matchups, but I do actually have a ton of value plays, and I'm going to try to discover some more in the later games today. Right now, we're all the way up to the 2:30 game. So, for starters, I'm going to go ahead and hop in on this Baylor Bears versus UCF Knights game. UCF is only a 3.5-point dog. I went and looked at Baylor's injury report. Let me Google it one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's see. Kobe Prentice is questionable. Kevin Simpkins is questionable as well. But that's really it in terms of the marquee players, right? You still have Sawyer Robertson on offense, Bryson Washington, the big four, right? Bryson Washington, Sawyer Robertson, Josh Cameron, and Michael Trigg. Those are the guys that you really look at for this Baylor offense. I mean, you have Keaton Thomas on defense. I think he's a pretty good linebacker in the country. But overall, I'm very surprised that Baylor is only a 3.5-point favorite at home. Looking at, let me make sure that I'm logged in here. My deepest apologies. Hang on one second. Let me punch in my phone number real quick. We'll see the code that they sent me. One second. Amateur hour over here, guys. I apologize. Let's see. 75311. Verify. Let's see. Verify. No, error verifying OTP. That's not good. Let's try it again. Oh, never mind. We are logged in. Okay, here we go. Got to get the energy up. Let's get after it. So Baylor has not really covered a 3.5-point spread recently, right? But look at the teams that they've been playing: TCU, Kansas State, Cincinnati, Arizona State with a healthy Sam Levitt. So those 5 games to me are of much higher caliber than UCF. And we could see here with common opponents, right? They're losing the same games. That, I mean, like Baylor beat Kansas State, UCF lost to Kansas State. So there's a couple common opponents here, but I just don't think that UCF is a very good team. Yes, they're 4-3, but look at the opponents that they've beaten. Jacksonville State, a touchdown. North Carolina, A&T, I mean, yeah, sure, they blew them out of the water. That's an FCS school. North Carolina blew them out of the water. Once again, I mean, North Carolina is pretty much on par with an FCS school this year. And then West Virginia, 45-13. That West Virginia team is awful, and they have not had a quarterback basically all season long. So that being said, looking at the games where they actually play real opponents, I think Baylor has a few games where they've been far more competitive, right? I mean, they've outright beat Kansas State. They were pretty damn competitive with TCU on the road. Hefty Lefty, good morning, good sir. Rise and grind indeed. I am confident about this Baylor. And look at that. The spread has dropped to 3. I am 1,000% hammering this -110 spread here. -110 at Caesars, Fanatics, any other place. I mean, I would go as far to say -4.5, +114, but I'll stick with my -3 here. I'll take the 3 points. I think Baylor wins this game outright. They've beaten some pretty good opponents so far this year in SMU and Kansas State. I know Kansas State is 4-4, but that's a much better Kansas State team than a 4-4 record reflects. They were competitive, especially in the second half against Auburn. I am just more confident in this Baylor offense. I mean, they consistently put up points, right? I mean, 20 versus Cincinnati, I think that's a pretty good Cincinnati defense, but 36 against TCU, 35 against Kansas State, 45 against Oklahoma State, 24 against Arizona State, 48 and 24. That Auburn defense, by the way, is much more talented than 24 points reflects. So I really like the Baylor offense. Not too confident in UCF. they're pretty inconsistent, right? I mean, they scored 45 versus West Virginia, but 11 to Cincinnati, 20 to Kansas, 20 to Kansas State, 34, but 17 to Jacksonville State. I mean, obviously, this is a different UCF team now here in week 10 than they were in week 1, but I am still riding high on -3 for Baylor. If we look at their record at home, it looks like, yeah, they're 7-3 at home. They've only covered the spread 50% of the time, but once again, UCF on the road, right, in their last, especially here in their last two, right, they lost by 14, lost by 9. But then even going back into last year, they haven't covered a 3-point spread since September of 2024. So it's been over a year. So Baylor -3 is my play here for today. Let me go back and check what else I've got. Next up, 11 o'clock games, Rutgers, Illinois. This game is projected to be a shootout. If I had to guess, I would guess the under. This is a gaudy number, right, for an in-conference matchup. But I mean, looking at the team totals, Rutgers has been putting up points over points on pretty much similar caliber teams, right? Iowa, they put up 28, Minnesota 28. I think Illinois is in the conversation with those two teams. 27 to Rutgers. I mean, of course, they only scored 19 and 10 against Washington and Oregon, but I think both of those teams are in an upper echelon conversation. Their line's at 24.5. I would put them somewhere around 21 points today. I don't think they're going to score that many. But Illinois, right? Let's look at their record recently. They have allowed a lot of points, and they're also scoring a good amount of points when they play similar caliber opponents. They scored 43 against Purdue, 45 against Duke. Those are the games where I'm thinking that, like, those are caliber teams that I would put on par with Rutgers. Rutgers, I did think were going to be a little more exciting. They got like DT Sheffield out of North Texas. I like their quarterback from last year. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. He's Greek, not that hard to figure out, but he can throw the rock a little bit. Pascal wagers. Oh man, I've been getting cooked. I had to take a break from the betting. Good man. You know, you don't want to chase. Chasing is irresponsible. So good on you for taking a good break. Everybody gamble responsibly, please. It is the best thing that you could do for your mental health as well as your bank account. So nice, Pascal. Hope you get on the right path. I mean, maybe just take a couple of days or maybe a week or so off and just throw out your wagers on some paper and just see what's going on. You know, that's what I like to do whenever I feel like I'm in a slump. I'll throw them on some paper. I'll track them up for a couple days and just, you know, see what's going on. Let's continue though and talk about this Rutgers Illinois game. So once again, projecting it to be a shootout, 62.5 is the line. Athan, once again, not even going to try. I think this guy, if I had to guess, this guy is Greek. That's how you would, you know, lean towards pronunciation. His line's at 264, but I want to look at specifically the line here for my guy, Luke Altmaier. It's at 275.5, which sounds like a gaudy number. But once again, I was telling you, when he plays similar caliber opponents, right? Rutgers also gives this up. But look, 296 versus Duke on the road, 328 versus USC, 390 on the road at Purdue. And then look at Rutgers, right? Last 4 games, they've allowed 290, 402, 324. Those numbers are pretty much on par. But look at the receiving props, right? Running backs don't really have, neither of the running backs really are involved. Both of them on average about 11.8 and 6.1. So that's only 17 yards of the projected 275. Hank Beatty, he averages 78. So collectively together, that's around 95 yards collectively. So we're still looking for 175 plus. And I see here that Colin Dixon, who is quite literally the wide receiver 2 for this Illinois team, his line is only at 42.5. So there's got to be somebody to pick up the slack. This is the guy who averages the second most targets on the team. He averages 4. Actually, let's look at the last 5 games because that'll give us a better idea. He averages 5.2 in his last 5 games. Meanwhile, Hudson Clement, who, let's see, what's he averaging in his last 5? 4.6. So pretty close here, 5.2 to 4.6. I think still Colin Dixon gets the mark of consistency, right? 4.226.2 for Hudson Clement, whereas he's 4.444443. So I'm going to go Colin Dixon, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say over 49.5 plus 133. That's my line for today via DraftKings. I think there's a ton of value in that play because I think if he gets 4 catches, we can go back and look touchdowns wise and then look at the Rutgers statistics, right? To wide receivers, they're 96 in the country in allowing receiving yards. That's not great. And so I don't think that Beatty, or however you pronounce his name, Hank Beatty, I don't think he's going to collect 178 yards. I think you can easily chalk him up for about 78. So I don't really like his line at all because we're only 3 yards off that. But meanwhile, Colin Dixon, especially in his last 5, what is he averaging? Averaging 64.2 compared to this 42 line. So I'll take, even if we go all the way up to 49, I will still take 14 yards over the projected here on his average. I know in the last couple games he hasn't gone over that, but look who he played. Ohio State and Washington. These 3 teams, or specifically USC and Purdue, are much more on par with that number. Rutgers is probably going to give this up in the first half. I like it plus 133. If you want to go and do something really cool, 69.5 plus 320. He's still doing this in 3 of his last 5 games. I like that line a lot. Looking at the game overview, it should be sunny. I mean, it's only going to be 48 degrees, so it might be a little chilly up there. But once again, this is a projected shootout. Rutgers is going to score some points. Illinois is going to try to score some points. I am in big favor of this line here. I might even, you know what? I'll run both plays. I'm going to run both plays here. I'm going to go over 49.5 plus 133, and I'm going to stack. Let's see. I'm going to stack 59.5 plus 211 because I think that's a good play. 1 unit, Colin Dixon, over 59.5. Once again, done this in 3 of his last 5 games. He's Mr. Consistency over the last few weeks. Reception yards plus 211. DraftKings. Okay, look, the reason that I'm doing this is look at the value that you get here. For 10 yards, you're getting almost 100 points in value. It's plus 210 at 64.5 via Hard Rock. So I definitely, I mean, look at this. And another 10 yards, you're getting another 109 points in value. I like this 59.5 line. Once again, still under that average. He played 2 elite defenses over the last couple of weeks. I think he's going to go back and get around 5 or 6 targets, 4 catches, and he has been very explosive over the last few weeks. I like this line a ton. Lots of value. I'm going to climb the ladder there, 49.5 and 59.5, and that's a total value of plus 344. Plus 344. I can do math. Let's continue, though. I'm going to take a gimme play today in the anytime touchdowns of this game, the Mean Green of North Texas versus the Midshipmen at Navy. Navy runs the ball 86.7% of the time in the red zone. The guy who leads them by far in touchdowns is Blake Horvath. He has 1.7 touchdowns in 7 games. I think he's scored a touchdown in every single game that he's played healthy so far this season. Let's look at his last 10. VMI, he did not play hardly any. Let's see. He had 18 rush attempts versus UAB, 2 touchdowns. I mean, look, every single game outside of VMI this season, he scored a touchdown. 2-1, 2-1, 2-4. North Texas, actually, on the other hand, is actually when they play dual threat quarterbacks. Let's look at this. 23 attempts, a touchdown. 16 attempts, a touchdown. 21 attempts, a touchdown. 12 attempts, 2 touchdowns. So that's what I'm looking at here. North Texas isn't good at stopping the run. I mean, this obviously is a Navy team that plays a different style of football, clearly. So I'm going to go with Blake Horvath anytime touchdown. That's minus 380 right now. I got it at minus 345. I definitely think he scores a touchdown here. I know North Texas is going to sell out, but Navy is very good at running the football, obviously. The over-under here is 66.5. Looking at the team props here, Navy's total is 29.5. So that's a projected 4 touchdowns. If you're telling me that the guy that's averaging 1.7 touchdowns a game doesn't score one of the 4 touchdowns, I think you're a little crazy. So I'm going to go with a gimme play here, 3.45 units, or now I guess 3.8 units, anytime touchdown, Blake Horvath. Moving on, let's talk about this. Let's see, is it the Duke game? I think it's the Duke. Yes, the Duke game is the next one I want to talk about. This game is at over under 54.5. Clemson, obviously, being extremely disappointing so far this season. 3-4 on the year. Losses to Syracuse, Georgia Tech, LSU, and SMU. Now, they've beaten the opponents that they're supposed to beat looking at it retrospectively, right? Boston College blew them out of the water. North Carolina blew them out of the water. Troy, they struggled with them early, but then pulled away later in the game. Duke has been an up and down team, to say the least, so far this season. A great road victory versus Cal following a very disappointing home loss to Georgia Tech. I think Duke was even favored in this game. So not really what you wanted to see there. Manny Diaz probably would have been in some coaching conversations if they win this game here, but they lose. They drop it hard. 9-point loss there at home. That's a tough one. I mean, Georgia Tech is a top 10 team in the country, but still, I think Duke, when they're at their best, they're slinging the rock. Look at the wins right here. Now, Tulane, they got desperate. They had to score. They had to run it up 313, 334, but passing the ball efficiently is what I mean. Whenever they are passing the ball efficiently, 22 for 30, 22 for 28, 19 for 28, look at that. Look at those lines. They're almost identical. 69, 268, 265. His line right now is at 271. I don't like that at all. I would go the under. I mean, I think they are going to lose today, so they're going to sling the rock. Actually, I changed my mind. It's probably going to go over this. Look at the games that they're losing. Illinois, Tulane, Georgia Tech, all averaging over 300 yards in a game. Nate Shepard probably not going to hit this 59.5 line because they're probably not going to be running the ball. That's my logic, or that was my logic behind this line right here, over 44.5. I actually have it over 49.5. Looking at the losses here, Tulane 81, Illinois, I don't think he actually played the whole game, but 17, Georgia Tech 3 for 39. So you look at the last, 5 games, they've been leaning on Quayshawn Brown a lot more, 6 catches. Look at his last 5. Let's see. He's averaging 4 catches, 57 yards. In his last 5, he's averaging 4.6 catches, 65 yards. So I think he's going over this 44.5 line. I'm going all the way up to 49.5. I got it plus 110. It's now down to plus 108. So we're seeing some money here on the under on that in that respect. But I do think Clemson, let's take a look at their statistics. Clemson is 64th in the country in allowing receiving yards to wide receivers, 153 per game. Quayshawn Brown, obviously wide receiver 2 here for Duke. I think there's a good amount of value here. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick while I've got some more viewers in the chat here. Guys, I'm looking at all these lines via doinksports.com. This is the place to find your best analytics for player props, over-under, sides, money line, doesn't matter, right? It's anything that you could find in a same-game parlay column. I definitely think this is the way to go. Educate and leverage yourself every play that you make. For example, FanDuel has got this at 44.5 minus 113. Look at what Hard Rock has on basically the same line, over under 54.5. If you have access to these two sports books, if you take the bet on Hard Rock, you are selling yourself short. Not only are you selling yourself points, but you're selling yourself short on 10 extra yards if you're going for the over 54.5. Now, if you were going for the under, it's vice versa, right? I mean, look at this under 59.5 minus 145. There's a 15-yard difference, and you're only losing about 30 points in value. To me, that is a ton. I definitely think this is the best way to figure out what sportsbook is best to place a wager on. This is the best way to gamble responsibly. If you're going to do it, check it out. Doinksports.com. Use my code PLIZONT. That's PLIZONT. 25% off of any package of your choosing. This is my favorite way to look at wagers, find value. That's what I do here. I try to find you guys some value while showing you the doinksports.com tool. So let's get into it. First of all, I said in his last 5, Quayshawn Brown averaging 65.5 receiving yards. He's done it in 3 of his last 5 games. Clemson in their last 6 have allowed it 4 out of 6 times, averaging, let's look at the last 5. Last 5, they're allowing 64.4. So we're getting a good amount of correlated value here, 64, 65 to 49. That's about 14, 15 yards of value. So I like this a lot, over 49.5 plus 108. Let's talk about this SMU-Miami game. SMU-Miami. There's one prop that I like in this game a ton. That's SMU. I know that they're a 10.5-point dog, but regardless of whether or not they're winning or losing their games this season, they've lost 3. So let's go take a look at TJ Harden in their losses. Let's see. Versus Baylor, 19 carries, 115 yards. Versus TCU, 15 carries, 56 yards. Versus Wake Forest, 13 carries, 25 yards. And that probably is what's wrong with SMU. That's probably why they lost that game. They did not give the ball to their second best offensive player. Let's go ahead and check out the injury report real quick. I just Google it. SMU injury report. Let's see if he's on there. Kevin Jennings, probable. Running back Chris Johnson Jr. is questionable. Wow, the injury report is pretty extensive for SMU here. I actually went on a limb here and picked Miami minus 10.5, but I do think regardless, win or loss, TJ Harden is going to be getting the rock. And if you give him 14 plus carries, so let's filter out his rush attempts and say more than 13. He's averaging 98 yards a game when you give him more than 13 carries. The lowest that he's gotten in all those 10 games dating all the way back to 2023. But you could see the 4 here. We can go into those last 5 here, averaging 86 a game, right? The lowest that he's got here is that 56 versus TCU. Now, Miami in their last 5 have not been great against stopping the run, right? They're averaging around 4 yards a carry allowed. So once again, if you give him 4, or let's say you give him 3.5 yards a carry, if he touches the ball 13 times, he's going over this 39.5 line plus 125 via Hard Rock. So tremendous amounts of value there. I love this play right here. That's the one that I found for you guys. Let's move on to Houston versus West Virginia. Let's look at this first. Houston's a 12.5 point favorite. West Virginia has been god-awful against stopping the pass. They're 110th in the country in allowing passing yards, 247 in the air so far this season. And Connor Wegman, whenever he's healthy and given a chance, look at his props. He slings the rock, right? I mean, versus Oklahoma State, 306, Oregon State, 270, Colorado, 222. Looking at him at home in his last few games, right? I mean, he didn't play the full game in that SFA game, played against Colorado the full game. Texas Tech, he got injured. Arizona, 164. Once again, Arizona's pass defense is much better. Arizona on the road, Arizona State on the road, 201 in the air and a victory against Arizona State. I absolutely think that he is going to go. Oh, as a matter of fact, his line has dramatically changed. I had him over 199 or 195.5. That line has completely disappeared. You can now get him 199.5 minus 110. I got him over 195.5 minus 114 via FanDuel. That line has shifted all the way up to 201.5. I would still take that over. I think West Virginia's pass offense is horrible. Oh, looks like we're refreshing our page real quick. They're horrible in the pass game. So I love that play. Meanwhile, looking at wide receiver 1, Amari Thomas, in his last 5 games has been pretty much elite, averaging 85 in the air, only caught 3 balls for 25 yards. I definitely think he's going to have a bounce back game. Let's look at his last 10. Yeah, I mean, look at the workload that you could see here as it increases. 3, 2, 3 to all the way up to 6, 7, 4, 3. This is what I'm looking at here. He's extremely explosive. 65.5 just seems too low. I got him at 64.5, and that was, let's see, that was plus 110 via Hard Rock. Let's see what we could find here. Yeah, 64.5 plus 110 via Hard Rock. That has a great amount of value to me, considering that his standard line here is at minus 112 at 65.5. So you're gaining 18 points in value. Actually, no, 22 points in value. And you're getting it for 1 less yard. So go look at that on Hard Rock. That's going to do it for this. Actually, no, one more Houston play. I think, once again, Houston has shown that they're explosive. Let's look at the team props. Over 14.5. Look at what West Virginia has allowed in the first half. They're averaging 19.6. When Houston plays similar caliber in conference matchups, 16 against Colorado, 24 against Oklahoma State, 21 against Arizona. These are the lines that I'm looking at. Texas Tech is elite. Oregon State was on the road. Arizona State was on the road. So at home in their last 4, and Texas Tech is not one of those. I don't count that. That's an elite Big 12 defense. West Virginia is not the same. Looking at West Virginia, they've allowed this in 7 of their last 10. I think Houston absolutely scores 17 minimum in this matchup in the first half. So those are my 3 plays for this. Houston over 14 and a half, Amari Thomas over 64 and a half yards receiving, and Connor Wegman. I had him over 195. I'd go 199 as well. So those are my 3 plays for this. Let's talk about Vandy. Let's see, where is that game? Vanderbilt versus Texas. That's the next matchup that I want to talk about. There's a couple plays I like for this one. I am a big fan of Texas in this game. Arch Manning is going to play. The line has actually moved down from 3.5 to 3. I said yesterday that I didn't care whether Arch Manning played or not. I'm riding with the Texas Longhorns. Now, that sounds crazy, but let me take a sip of water and explain. So, thinking about this game, Texas has not played an SEC opponent at home so far this season, I believe. Let's look at their home schedule. Yeah, Oklahoma, neutral site. The other games that they've played, San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston State. One moment. Let me I just got a message here. Double checking something real quick. Okay. Anyways, let me just continue with what I'm saying. Vanderbilt on the road this season against SEC opponents has played Alabama, lost. South Carolina with an injured Lenore Seller, victory. So we have a 50-50 shot of getting this right. Texas, on the other hand, they have not shown me much of anything so far this season, but their offense has been steadily improving against their SEC opponents. Now, they took a step back versus Kentucky, but really got the ball rolling against Mississippi State, especially late in that game. Vanderbilt has had some very gutsy wins over the last few weeks. 3 weeks in a row now that they're going to play a ranked opponent. They beat LSU. They beat Missouri. I just think it's unbelievably hard to beat 3 ranked SEC teams in a row. That's why I'm fading Vanderbilt here. I'm going Texas -3. Let's look at the sides. Let's see. Texas -3.5 is +105. I don't mind that at all. Looking at their games here, they've covered it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their 8 games so far this season. They've done it at home every single time. Vanderbilt has covered a 3.5-point spread quite frequently. However, I'm looking at this game versus Alabama, and I kind of think that's the style of play that we're going to see here today. So I'll go 1 unit Texas -3.5 +105 via ESPN. I just think that Texas defense is pretty damn good most of the time, right? Shutting out Oklahoma 6 points, shutting down Kentucky 13 points on that Kentucky offense is pretty damn bad, but still, right? 0 points allowed to Sam Houston State, 10 to UTEP, 7 to San Jose State, even only 14 allowed to Ohio State, right? Which doesn't sound, that great, but I think Texas's defense is still elite. Let me look at Texas football team. Oh, actually, we can see team stats. I want to see what their scoring numbers are. So in the country right now, Texas has the 8th scoring defense, 13th total yards defense, 5th in yards per play, 5th in points per play, 8th in yards per play, 3rd a 4th down conversion, 16th in 3rd down conversion. Against the rush, they are 100% elite. 2.4 yards per rush, number 3 in the country. Number 3 in the country in yards per game allowed to total. So let's look at the touchdowns wise. Look at these numbers to quarterbacks. They're 6th in the country in allowing rushing yards. Like I said, 3rd in the country in allowing rushing yards. 10th against running backs. Now versus the pass, they're fairly weak. 219 receiving yards. Total, so that's 219 passing yards, 66 in the country. Diego Pavia in the victories that they've won against ranked opponents so far this season. We can go and take a look at his player props here. Look at Diego Pavia. The winning formula to me is Pavia not passing the football. It's him running, right? Look at this game versus LSU, 14 passes completed, 160 yards, 10 against Missouri for 129. But running the football has been the key here. 86, 79, 58, 86. That's how you stay competitive. And he runs the football and scores touchdowns. In his last 5 games, he scored 5 touchdowns. Now, Texas, looking at what they do against the run, 14, 15, 14, 15 attempts. Let's look at the last 5. Last 5, they're only allowing 8.6 yards per game, 2 rushing quarterbacks. That's John Mateer, dual threat. Cutter Boyley, not really sure who that guy is, but he might be a dual threat. Blake Shapen, he's not really a dual threat, but he got crushed in the backfield, negative 39 yards. I am absolutely thinking that at home, Texas, in a desperate moment here, with 2 losses already on the books, playoffs on the line, is going to be desperate in this moment. I think they win this game fairly easily. Arch Manning, by the way, has been announced. He's going to play today. Let's scroll down and take a look at him. So his line is sitting at 229.5, and I think that's a lot. This Vanderbilt defense has actually been pretty good so far this season, especially against the pass, only allowing roughly, let's look at the last 5 games. In the last 5, they've only been allowing 208 in the air, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on average. Arch Manning's line is at 1.5 plus 116. I definitely don't hate that, but I don't love it either. The one that I do like is his line's at 229.5, which means you have to account for 230 receiving yards. By the way, Trey Wisner, of course, his lines are at 14.5, 57.5 rushing yards. I would look at taking that over 57.5. Looking at some of the softer run defenses, he's been injured for a good part of the season, but so has C.J. Baxter. C.J. Baxter has missed a good amount of games. So this Texas running back core has been injured yet again. This was the same issue that they had last year. Could not get a healthy running back on the books. Oh, Hefty lost connection. Review your plays for early stream. I missed. I will get to that in just a moment, my friend. Stick around. Let me get through Let me get through the 11 o'clock games, and I'll give you a quick review. So, anyways, looking at this line here, I like Trey Wisner over 57.5. The problem is I don't have a body of work outside of, I believe, Ohio State and Mississippi State where Trey Wisner and C.J. Baxter played together. So C.J. Baxter, 9 carries, 27 yards. Trey Wisner, 12 carries, 41 yards. So this is a split backfield, 16 carries. And for C.J. Baxter, who I believe was injured early on in that season, 10 carries. So these guys are splitting the totes in the backfield. So I don't really love taking prop bets on running back by committee teams, which Texas is clearly one of them when they have healthy running backs to do it. So that being said, I don't like these. I do like this, though. Emmett Mosley. There have been a ton of comments about Emmett Mosley in the positive direction over the last few weeks. As you can see, he did not play in the early part of the season, but he has become accustomed to the Texas culture. Steve Sarkisian has given him a bunch of props. And as you can see here, last week versus Mississippi State, his workload starts to increase. Earlier today, I found his line all the way down at 20.5 for minus 115. You can get it 24.5 minus 101. Let me see what I wrote it down at real quick. Emmett Mosley, I had him down at 20.5 minus 115 via Fanatics. So you can now get it minus 115 at BetMGM. I like that play a lot. I even like my 24.5. Looking at his last 4 games, he's averaging, look at his last 5. Filter it out. Last 5, let's take out the 101. He's averaging around 35.5 receiving yards per game. That, to me, has a lot of value considering I got it all the way down at 20.5. Vanderbilt has actually given this up in a fair amount of their games so far this season. South Carolina, Georgia State, Alabama, LSU all had over that line. And then 20.5, you could even chalk up Missouri's wide receiver number 3, Josh Manning. And that was in a game that Bo Prabula got, oh, God, that leg injury was brutal. So I like that 20.5 for Emmett Mosley. The second prop that I like for this game, I think I've been pretty consistent on this. I think Texas is going to be ahead in a good amount of this game. And so Vanderbilt's going to be forced to pass the football. Looking at Cedric Alexander, his line right now over 1.5. I like the over on that. Looking at his last 10 games, he's done that in 3 of the last 6. He's 50-50 for it, but we're getting that plus 114 of value there. Texas, by the way, has shown you that they're very weak to running backs in the receiving game. In their last 5, specifically, they're allowing 4 catches for 42 yards. So I do think Vanderbilt is going to try to exploit that a little bit, get Cedric Alexander involved. You always want to try to and this is another point that I'm trying to make here. You always want to try to get your running back involved in the receiving game on the road. So look at this. On the road versus South Carolina, SEC matchup, 2 catches, 26 yards. Alabama, 3 catches, 22 yards. LSU, another marquee matchup, 2 catches, 16 yards. So looking at his line here, you can get it over 14.5 plus 108. You could do over 24.5 at plus 188. I think there's nowhere near amount of value there. But the one that I do like is over 1.5 catches plus 114. Get your quarterback involved with his running back in the pass game to kind of get him comfortable. Plus 114 is my play here. Let's continue now. Let's see, the next game we have on is Virginia Tech versus Louisville. Okay, so that's a 2:00 game. So hefty lefty, and for everybody else that missed the early part of this stream, these are the plays that I love for today. Baylor minus 3.5 plus 105. Colin Dixon, Illinois. Yes, an Illinois wide receiver, over 49.5 receiving yards. I'm also going long shot play here. Colin Dixon over 59.5 receiving yards. Gimme anytime touchdown here is Blake Horvath. Anytime touchdown minus 345. In every game that he's played a full game in so far this season, and even in going back into last year, he has scored at least 1 touchdown. The over-under in that game is 66.5. Navy's team total is at 29.5. So I definitely think he scores at least 1 touchdown. 345 is my unit play there. 1 unit to Quayshawn Brown, Duke wide receiver on the road at Clemson, over 49.5. He's received a big increase in workload over the last few games. I think that continues on the road. That's plus 110. TJ Harden, over 39.5 rush yards. I find that one very peculiar considering that Chris Johnson Jr., the backup running back for SMU, is questionable going in this game. Whenever we see TJ Harden go over 13 carries, which I think he will today, that line is at 86 on average rush yards. Now, Miami's been a little bit better against the run than most teams, but I digress. TJ Harden is the second best offensive player on SMU. If he touches the ball 13 times, he's going well over that 39.5 rushing yards, plus 145 via Hard Rock. Next game I want to talk about, Houston versus West Virginia. Houston's at home. There's 3 plays that I like here. Connor Wegman, I had him over 195.5 passing yards. Amari Thomas, over 64.5 receiving yards. Hard Rock, by the way, plus 110. Big value there. And then Houston, over 14.5 first half points. They've done this in 3 of their last 4 games at home, minus 114. Now getting into this Texas game, I have 2 plays here. Not Kyron Drones. Emmett Mosley, over 20.5 receiving yards, and Cedric Alexander, over 1.5 receptions. That's going to do it for the 11 o'clock plays. Let's get into the 2 p.m. plays real quick, or 2 p.m. and later plays. I apologize. I just noticed this on the bottom of the notes here. I'm also going plus 105 at ESPN, Texas minus 3.5. It's really hard for me to believe that Vanderbilt has the same kind of endurance that a great SEC team like Alabama has. I don't think they can beat 3 ranked opponents in a row, especially with this one being on the road at Texas. Arch Manning has improved incrementally so far this season. I think he continues to improve, especially at home. He has not played an SEC opponent at home at all this season. So Texas minus 3.5 is my play there, plus 105. Let's hop into Kyron Drones, Virginia Tech versus Louisville. Louisville, by the way, has been a pretty good team at sacking the quarterback. Touchdowns-wise, we could take a look at Louisville's props against quarterbacks. Rush yards, they're allowing 31.43 rush yards to quarterbacks, 38th in the country in allowing rushing touchdowns. Let's look at 1 second here. Teams, all teams. Let's see. Louisville. Let's see what their line is here. Sack percentage. 53rd in the country in sack percentage. Kyron Drones can run the football. He's run it a lot recently. Looking at his line, let's scroll all the way down to him real quick. Here he is. Kyron Drones, 16 carries, 83 yards, 21 carries, 137 yards versus Cal and Georgia Tech. Both of those schools not great at getting to the passer. Looking at Louisville so far this season, they've only let that happen. Oh, wait, 0 times. His line is at 47.5. I'm going under that -114. If you wanted to go to 49.5, -120, I wouldn't hate it at all. I just like the -114 because I think that's a little bit more value. 6 points of value for 2 yards. Ah, that's like right on the money. Maybe I'll go under 49.5. That might seem like a better play. Hmm. Well, either or. I'm going to stick with my 114 under 47.5. Like I said, he's only done this in 3 games of the 8 that they've played so far this season. Louisville has not allowed this to happen all season long. I don't think today is the day that they get it going. So Kyron Drones under 47.5 receiving or rushing yards for the game. Let's continue here. DJ Lagway. We are talking the greatest cocktail party in the world, the largest cocktail party in the world. Georgia, Florida, neutral site game that happens in Jacksonville every year. Florida has fired their coach, Billy Napier. Willie Gonzalez, who I believe was the wide receivers coach and the passing game coordinator, is going to be the head coach now. I think when you get a wide receivers coach as the head coach and he's a passing coordinator, what are you going to do? You're going to pass the football. DJ Lagway, I know that he has been up and down so far this season, but he's been far more consistent over the last few games here. Look at that 21, 21, and 20 completions for around 260 something yards per game, 287 versus LSU. Now, 5 interceptions, that's a lot, but look at this. Right? Last 4 games, only 3 picks, a lot less than 5 in one game. So I'm going to go over 19.5 completions. Georgia has been around that line or over it in their last 5 games. I think they are going to be trailing in this game, forced to pass. Florida is. So DJ Lagway is going to be completing some balls here. So over 19.5 completions plus 110 via Fanatics. That's my first play. Second play. Florida is going to be very energized in this game. It's a rivalry matchup. Looking at Florida last year in the first half, Georgia actually was losing at that moment. DJ Lagway played the first half, hurt his hamstring, and didn't play the rest of the game. Yet Florida was able to keep it very competitive, right? Looking at the game that ended up last year, 34-20, Georgia pulled away very late, and it had to do with the fact that I think Florida's third-string quarterback, who actually ended up being the backup, Aiden Warner, a walk-on transfer from Yale, was there for the Gators. I definitely think that Florida is going to keep this game competitive, especially in the first half. Let's see here. Over, under. No, let's look at sides. First half plus 3.5 is what I'm really looking at here. Minus 110. Let's see what we got here. Minus 105, minus 102 via FanDuel here, plus 3.5. That was my play. I think Florida keeps this game competitive. They've covered this spread 80% of the time. Meanwhile, Georgia minus 3.5 has only covered that spread 30% of the time. So we have some competing statistics here that kind of coincide with each other. Georgia has not been good in the first half so far this season. Florida has been pretty okay so far. I mean, the only games that they're actually not covering are versus Texas A&M, a game that they were outclassed in, Miami, a game that they were outclassed in. I don't think Georgia is the same Georgia that we've seen. Would I be shocked to see an upset here? Pretty much, yes. But I would not be surprised to see Florida keep this game competitive throughout. So plus 3.5, minus 102 is my play here for that. I think that'll do it for the Florida-Georgia game. Let's make sure. Florida, DJ Lagway. Yes. Okay. Next up, Minnesota versus Michigan State. Mysteriously, now Darius Taylor is questionable for this game. Let's see if we got an injury update on him, by the way. Darius Taylor, the best player for Minnesota. 19 minutes ago, Sports Illustrated. Let's see if we can find something on X. Waiting to see. Continue as me. Can we search something up, please? Let's see. Sign. Oh, okay. Apparently, I have to sign in. Give me one moment, ladies and gentlemen. I am logging into my Twitter so that I can see what we're looking at here. Darius Taylor. This is a 2:30 p.m. game. We'll see if we have any injury update on Darius Taylor. Darius Taylor. Top. Mm, according to a TikToker, Koi Perch or Parich, Darius Taylor and Drake Lindsay are playing football today. Let's see. As of the latest, nothing. Minute. Okay. At free plays. Questionable. He's still questionable. So this is the game where we're not going to know whether or not Michigan or Minnesota's best player on offense is going to play. But what I am confident about is look at Minnesota at home versus Michigan State on the road. Minnesota at home covering a 3.5 point spread 70% of the time. Michigan State on the road covering a 3.5 point spread 20% of the time. So here we go. Coinciding plays. They've been blown up by 13.5 points per game on average. Minnesota on average 14.5. Look at the games this season. 4 out of the 5 games they win by more than 3.5 points. Look at the games this season. All 3 of them getting blown out in these games. So I will go Minnesota minus 3.5. I think that's a really good value play. If you wanted to go even more, I wouldn't blame you at all. Let's see here. 7.5 is plus 160. I just don't think there's a lot of value in that. I'll go minus 3.5, minus 105. Let's see. Any other plays that I have for this game? No, sirree. That's going to be the one. Now, Kansas State takes on Texas Tech at 2:30. This is one of the biggest Big 12 matchups of the day. People are screaming, upset, upset, upset. I don't see it as of yet. Would I be shocked? No, I thought Kansas State was going to be much better than 4-4 so far this season. The fact that they're 4-4 is really embarrassing. That loss versus Iowa State really set the season off poorly in week 0. That was the game in Ireland. Over under, actually looking at team props, this is the one play that I have for you right now. Actually, I have 2 plays. So Kansas State, looking at their offense, has been cooking recently. 34, 34, 41, and 42. They've won 3 of their last 4 matchups. Do I think that they can cover this spread versus Texas Tech? Yes, but Texas Tech, outside of that loss to Arizona State on the road, has been dominant, absolutely dominant. Look at this, a 24-point victory versus Houston. I can do math. Let's see, what is that? 28 minus 3, 25-point victory versus Kansas, 42-point blowout, shutout, goose-egged Oklahoma State, 24-point victory versus Utah. I love what I'm seeing for this Texas Tech team so far this season, but team props wise, the one that I do like is over 10.5 points for Kansas State in the first half, plus 116 at FanDuel. That has a tremendous amount of value to me. Like I said, Kansas State in their last 4 games, 17, 17, 14, 13. So even if Kansas State only gets a field goal or 2 field goals and 1 touchdown, that's 13 points in the first half. Love that play there. And then I'm thinking this game is going to go well over the 51. And now I know Texas Tech has only done this in 1 of their last 5 games. Meanwhile, Kansas State has done this in 4 of their last 5 games. Matter of fact, I'm going to even take it a step further and go over 55.5 at plus 140 via ESPN. That is my value play of the day for over-under spreads there, or over-under bets. So there's a lot of value in 55.5. Texas Tech is still doing this 60% of the time. Kansas State in their last 3 have done it all 3 times. I think this happens again at home. Points is what I'm expecting today from both of these teams. I like Behren Morton. I love Avery Johnson, even though he has not panned out as quarterback 1 so far this season. I think his dual threat ability, his ability to scramble outside the pocket, complete some deep passes, all of these things go in favor of his game. So I like this a lot. Let's continue, though. So these are my 2 plays. Kansas State over 10.5 points in the first half, and the total game over 55.5. Let's talk about Cal. I'm going out on a limb here, guys. This is my last play that I have written out right now. I'm going out on a limb. I am calling upset alert. Cal money line. Right now it's at plus 205. I love that via DraftKings. I think there's a tremendous amount of value in this play. plus 205 is a ton of money for a Virginia team that has really struggled over the last few weeks, barely beating Washington State, barely beating North Carolina, barely beating Louisville. That was a thorough victory versus actually, it wasn't even a thorough victory. That was an overtime victory versus Florida State. Now they beat the dog at a Stanford, but doesn't everybody? Looking at the away, they've only played 2 games away so far this season. They're not covering that 7-point spread or 5. Now it's down to 5.5 points. I'm going California money line in this game. Cal at home has been pretty damn good so far this season. 3-1. That blowout loss to Duke was a little embarrassing, but still 3 games that they have won so far this season. Texas Southern, Minnesota, who I think is a much better team than people would like to think. They beat them thoroughly. Looking all the way back into last season, right? Cal covered the spread a lot. They outright won 6 of the 4 games. So considering that this is plus 205, I love that play. So those are all my plays that I have written down so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these other ones. I already looked at Mississippi State, Arkansas. I looked at Ole Miss, South Carolina, Arizona, Colorado. Didn't see a ton of value there. Let's look at Kentucky versus Auburn. Now, Ashton Daniels is going to get the start here for Auburn tonight. It's been announced. Hugh Freeze is fed up with Jackson Arnold, as are probably the vast majority of Auburn fans. So let's take a look at this game real quick. Auburn's a 10.5-point favorite today, by the way, at home. Cutter Boyle has been the starter for Kentucky in the last, I don't know, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, maybe even 4 games. Maybe he got bit, or maybe got put in that Eastern Michigan game. Kentucky is 2-5 so far this season. Auburn 4-4 sides wise. Let's see Kentucky on the road. It's right on the money, 50-50. They're covering a 10.8-point spread. The line's at 10.5. So I don't love that. Team props, Auburn is sitting at 27.5. They're projecting 4 touchdowns. Kentucky has given up that in 3 of their last 5 games, 3 of their last 4. I just don't love it. I cannot trust this Auburn team offensively yet. Wish we had some defensive props because I would love to take Keldrick Falk over 1.5 sacks, but that's plus money. But I digress. Let's continue to look. Nebraska USC. That should be a good game. I'm really looking forward to that game. Let's look at the trending insights on this game and see if we see anything of value. Let's see here. Where is it? USC, Nebraska. And this will be our last play for the day before we hop off. Let's see. USC under 33.5, minus 23.5. Very interesting. Nebraska has allowed 33.5 points, or less than 33.5 points. 10 out of the last 10 games. Don't hate that. Emmett Johnson. I think he's going to be able to run the ball really well. Jaden Maiava. Under 2.5 passing touchdowns, minus 233. Meh. Nebraska Cornhuskers over 26.5 points. They've done that in 5 of their last games at home. Jacoby Lane under 4.5 receptions. Don't love that because it's minus 156. Makai Lemon over 90 or under 90.5 receiving yards. Don't love that. I think he's one of the best receivers in the country. Luke Lindenmeyer had under 2.5 receptions in 3 of the last 5 games. Don't like any of that. So let's go back here. Let's look. Let's see. Where is this game? Am I blind? I'm blind. Last play of the day, guys. Player props wise, I want to look at Emmett Johnson, see what his line is at. Because he's a guy that gets to tote the freaking rock. 17.5 carries. His line's at 97.5. Ugh. Let's see. Let's look at running backs versus USC filter rush attempts that rush for more than 14 times in a game. Pretty impressive stuff here. Jeremiah Love, 24, 228. I think they're going to run the football here. Emmett Johnson at home. Number goes from 98 to 73. His line is at 20. You know what? What we'll do is we'll take this 26.5 line receiving yards. We'll go, 26.5. minus 115. No, we'll go 29.5. So we'll go 1 unit. Emmett Johnson over 29.5 yards receiving. Plus 114. Love that play. That's via FanDuel. I mean, he's done this in 3 of his last 5 games. He's heavily involved in the pass game so far this season. So I like that line over 29.5. That is going to do it for this stream, guys. Be sure to check out doinksports.com. It is the best way to educate yourself, leverage all your plays. In my opinion, there's nothing better that you could do if you're going to gamble. Make sure you gamble responsibly. Find the value on these websites. It's unbelievably key. Look at this right here. If you wanted to take the under on Emmett Johnson and you took under 27, that's minus 115. Under 25.5, that's minus 114. You are losing money every single time you wager, and do not look at this website. So go check it out today. Use my code PLIZONT, that's PLIZONT, for 25% off of any purchase of your choosing. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. sharp, for an NFL stream. That's going to be super exciting.